25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. How many people do you think live in Daytona, Rob? How many people do you think live there?
Oh, 30,000?
62,000. 62,000. That's
okay.
as of the census in 2013 or estimates. I guess they don't do the census except for at the 10-year mark, right? So about 62,316. How many people do you think show up in Daytona for the Daytona 500?
Let's see, how many seats? 300,000 people, maybe?
It says here, now I had to Google it. Now I might be wrong, but it says 250,000 people show up for the Daytona 500 every February, which means that the city of Daytona goes from 62,000 people to 300,000 something people, like in a heartbeat, and most of them right there looking at those cars making left turns. John Havick is on the phone. He is retired from teaching public policy at the Georgia Institute of Technology, and he must love NASCAR because he's written a book called The Ghosts of NASCAR, the Harlan Boys, and the first Daytona 500. I'm guessing there were probably much fewer people at that first one, right?
I would think so. It's probably just a
I think
whim.
John's been with us before, correct?
Yes, he has.
Good morning, John. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm just fine.
And where are you right now?
I live in Stone Mountain, Georgia. It's a little suburb of Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Okay. How's the weather there? Is okay?
It's not bad. We just got a little snow dusting where I live last week, but not enough to even hardly bother with. So it's okay. It's pretty good weather, and there were I think roughly 50,000 people at that first Daytona 500 in 1959.
Well, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? 50,000 people for something that hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, they had to put it. They had an overflow. They let people go into the infield, and they just kept selling tickets.
Where were they? Where did they have it?
Well, the first one was at that big track. That was the first year they built this big track.
Okay.
And as you were saying, it was really an economic issue for the city. I mean, they knew that this was a generator of money coming into the community. People would come in and they'd rent houses. They didn't have enough housing even, so people were renting out rooms, and it was quite a benefit to the community.
Wow. Now, do you have a family connection with NASCAR drivers or with NASCAR in general?
Well, the man who won the first Daytona 500 and then had it taken away from him 3 days later, that was Johnny Bucamp, who lived in Iowa. He was one of the Harlan boys. He bought to race my grandfather's passenger car. My grandfather traded it in back in about 1949, and Johnny Bucamp bought it and converted it to an old model stock car and raced it. And that's what drew me to the races at the very beginning, was just going to the track to watch my grandfather's old car that we used to ride around in out on the track racing.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, little did I know that Johnny Bucamp would become one of the best drivers in the United States. He was considered to be the national champion in the Midwest. That's what they called him. But of course, once NASCAR became more famous and everything later, they just covered and reported the history of the NASCAR drivers. But Bucamp was every bit as strong as any of the NASCAR drivers in the 1950s.
Oh, wasn't the race held on Daytona on the beach itself at first?
Yeah, he came. Yes, he was. He came to one time. He visited and raced in 1957. There were 60 cars in the race, and he got second. So he'd been down there racing on the beach and had done well. But then for this first big 59 race, he came back. He had a chance to drive a Thunderbird that Bill France, the owner of NASCAR, had opened the race up to sports cars for the first big race. And so about 8 Thunderbirds were getting ready to race in the race, and Bucamp had a chance to drive one of the Thunderbirds.
I'm a little bit confused. Is Johnny Bucamp your grandfather?
No. He bought my grandfather's race car.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and Bucamp was probably, at that time he was like 25 when he bought my grandfather's car.
Okay.
But he wasn't much of a mechanic. Johnny wasn't, so he you had a very fine mechanic in the Midwest. People were coming from 5 states away to have him build engines and cars for them, and so then this man happened to live in Harlan, Iowa, also. So there was actually a big racing community in this little town in Iowa. It just happened that by blind luck, they had about 5 excellent racers coming out of this little town. And several of them were quite good.
Oh, so the Harlan is not a last name. That's the name of a city. I guess that didn't click. Okay.
Yeah, it's Harlan is the name of a little city, little town, 5,000 people, about roughly 45 miles from Omaha, Nebraska. and Omaha, Nebraska is at that time was the biggest place between Chicago and Denver, and they had tall buildings in Omaha, and it's a city, and they had a track there on the Iowa side of the river, across the Missouri River, and this track was built by Mafia. Myers Lansky in the 40s to have gambling on dog races. They finally put Lansky out of business after the Second World War, and this fine facility was left remaining for the people in the area to figure out what to do with, and they started racing old model stock cars on it.
Oh wow! So were you much younger than Johnny? How do you pronounce it?
Johnny Buchamp. People it may have heard it as Beauchamp or Beauchamp, but it's really Buchamp.
So what was the age difference between you and him?
Oh, I was just a young boy, and I've since I've written the book, in my book, The Ghost of Nascar, I have a photo I took of Johnny standing in front of his car, not the one my grandfather bought, but the one that won the track championship, and then in the background you can kind of see the stadium and where the fans were, and it's really quite a shot, and I can't believe I took that as a little kid. But other people called me after the book was published, and this one man said, I just was so touched, Johnny. I was standing there, the big crowd of men around Johnny, and Johnny stopped everything, got a hold of me, came and sat me down on the car, and took a few seconds with me. And the guy was a small boy. He became a racer himself. This man did, but he called and told me that little story. So Johnny was just kind of a local race hero, basically, at that time when I saw him.
So the declared winner was not Johnny Buchamp; it was Lee Petty. That last name, is it the same Petty family that we know?
It is. Richard. Everyone likes Richard. So Richard is Lee Petty's son. But the first generation, they were kind of coming out of the poverty of the 30s and the moon shining, and nobody had any money, and the racing the people who raced, most of them didn't have much money, and so they were a hard scrabble. I mean, they were a lot of them tough customers. And
hard scrabble, I like that expression.
They would do anything to win, and Lee Petty was the epitome of that. He would do anything to win, and he had a reputation for that. And so, he saw his opportunity and he took it, as George Washington Plunkett said.
But, I want to make sure we get the details about that. So we need to take a little break. Oh, let me take a phone call first, if I can do a phone call. Good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for calling. There's something up with the phones.
Yeah.
This is the second.
There is.
Okay. So let's take a little break and we'll be right back. This is fascinating. I apologize to the listeners. I don't know what's going on with the phones. The last interview also, I couldn't get the callers through. John Havick is on the phone. His book is called The Ghosts of Nascar, The Harlan Boys, and the First Daytona 500. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, Thursday, a cloudy day with showers and thunderstorms crossing the area, some with flooding downpours. It'll dry out late today, the high 66 to 70. Cloudy early Thursday night, then some clearing late and noticeably cooler with lows in the 40s to near 50. Friday, mostly sunny, high 64 to 68. And on Saturday, partly sunny, high 66 to 70. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hi, I'm Seth with AA Lock, Dock, and Security. Have you ever thought about the locks or security on your house or business? Have you ever wondered why the keys to your new car cost so much? Well, at AA Lock, Dock, and Security, we can help with securing your valuables. We can even replace those expensive transponder keys. We can give you the knowledge that no one else will. Call AA Lock, Dock, and Security at 867-1965. That's 867-1965.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
Oh my, how did another 365 days go by? If you're looking to make a change in 2016, get involved in the health scene. Get rid of the old and try something new, like acupuncture at A Better You. Pain in your joints or knees? Throw out your back every time you sneeze? Then acupuncture is sure to please. From pain to allergies, even the flu, come get acupuncture at A Better You. Call me, Dr. Erica Olstein with A Better You Healthcare today at 352-615-5566.
Find forests of fun, make mountains of memories, discover your room with a view at the Ocala RV Show. North Central Florida's largest RV show is February 4th through 7th at the Florida Horse Park. Tour hundreds of RVs, local dealers competing for your business. Register to win a $100 gas card every day. No purchase necessary. Thursday through Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 10 to 4. Adults $5, kids under 16 free. Buy one, get one free Thursday. And military, active, or retired save $2 every day. The Ocala RV Show.
All right, 12 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. There's something about Daytona that attracts us all, and it's not just the beach and the bikinis, but so many motor vehicle things happen over there, right? And maybe because of this history with the NASCAR, the motorcycle guys like to gather over there, and
oh yeah,
right?
Bike Week,
Bike Week, Biketoberfest, right?
Yeah.
John Havick is on the phone, the ghosts of NASCAR. So, John, I want you to do me a favor because I think the listeners probably are very curious about what you said earlier regarding the first winner not being Lee Petty. The history books will say Lee Petty. So take us back to 1959 and kind of make a case for this so that Johnny Beauchamp is perhaps maybe the rightful winner.
Yeah. And when I started the book, I really didn't know much about it. And so it became like a detective story for me. I started talking to a few people about of course, it was a big race, and he finished second. Johnny Beauchamp did. So, I mean, it wasn't like he didn't finish well. But anyway, it didn't take long talking to a few people, and and most of the people in the Midwest are definitely saying this, that Lee Petty was a lap behind. That's the and you see what seemed to be the focus at the time was Lee Petty and Johnny Beauchamp went across the finish line almost together, and so that was the issue. Who went across first? But the people and it wasn't just something people dreamed up. As it evolved, and first I didn't even believe it. I just thought, well, they're just sour grapes there. But the people told me this. Then Wanda Lund, Tiny Lund, who won the Daytona 500, also was from Harlan, and so you had two Daytona winners from this little town. Tiny Lund, second wife, Wanda, was talking to her. Now she's deceased. But I talked to her early on writing the book, and she said, "Well, there was something that they caught. They caught the people adding laps. They said that there was somehow they caught them. Well, okay, so people were telling me this, and I kind of half believed it, and then things just kind of kept evolving. But if you look at it, if you look at the race. All the people right at the finish line, 12 reporters, Fireball Roberts, a number of people, all said Lee Petty went across first. I got a hold of a tape, analyzed the tape, and it looked like Lee Petty went across first. The only people who thought that Johnny Bucamp won that race, and that's all they said was Bucamp won the race, was the owner of NASCAR, Bill France, and his flagman. Now, how could they be blind when everybody else?
Yeah.
Now, you'll hear when NASCAR says, well, they couldn't see who finished first. That's what I've heard them say. That's what NASCAR officials say now today. They say, well, Bill France and his flagman couldn't see. Their eyes were blocked. Well, that really is kind of hard to believe, something like that. They'd call this big race if they couldn't see the finish. Something else was going on, and what was most likely going on, and to me anyway, was that they thought, the officials thought and believed that Lee Petty was a lap behind. Now, I started looking at other races. Now, what do you suppose was going on? There were several races where the officials thought and believed that Lee Petty was a lap behind, and when they counted the laps, he wasn't a lap behind. In one race in Concord, which is near Charlotte, Curtis Turner and Speedy Thompson finished first and second. They thought they'd finished first and second, and Curtis Turner led every lap. They counted the laps, and Lee Petty had one more lap than the officials thought. 12,000 people in the stands thought otherwise. Speedy Thompson, the second place car, was moved down, and he said that if somebody can beat you, Curtis Turner said, first let's just back up. Who do you suppose was counting the laps?
Go ahead.
Lee Petty's wife.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. So now, if you're the detective working through this thing. So they had, the NASCAR had the wives counting the laps because it was a shoestring operation. They didn't have enough money.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So there was these instances, not more than one. And so Speedy Thompson said, well, if they can beat you like that with a pencil and paper, he said, we might as well just quit racing. Curtis Turner said Elizabeth Petty had the fastest pencil in racing. That's what he said. He had a sense of humor about it. Well, who do you suppose was monitoring and supervising the people who were counting the laps? Well, it was the man. I think he was an honest man, but he was supervising, and he started the first driver fan club. Now, who do we suppose was that? He started a driver fan club for Lee Petty. So the guy, he was a NASCAR official. So you have a lot of things that don't look quite good, but the repetition of the times when it looked like someone else won, and it just kept happening. I kept investigating things, and I was just talking to this one driver's son, the driver was deceased, and I asked the son, I said, was there ever a race when your father thought he'd won and they counted the laps? Now, he didn't know anything about what I was doing.
Okay, right.
And so I just was asking him, and the son said, well, yeah, there was one time. And it was just happened just like this. And I said, well, who was the driver? Lee Petty.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And so these things just kept happening. Then in 1965, the owner of NASCAR, Bill France, wrote a book with a journalist. Blois Britt was the name of the journalist. And he talked, and in the book, they just kind of described the early days of NASCAR and some of the big races and things. Now, in the book, they say that Johnny Bucamp followed Lee Petty's exhaust for like 150 laps. Now, I went back and looked at what happened during that race.
Right.
Johnny Bucamp took over the lead on lap 43. It's a 200-lap race. Johnny Bucamp took over the lead. Lap 43, he led off and on near the front for the rest of the race, for the entire rest of the race. Lee Petty was usually back at fifth. Once he got up to second, he was back to fifth or farther back. And on lap 140 of this 200-lap race, Lee Petty was behind the car that finished one full lap behind.
Okay, so Lee Petty then, if it's true then Johnny Buchamp came in first, but Lee Petty didn't even come in second.
No, and then I start talking to the mechanics in the pits. I mean, I'm still kind of wondering, could all this be? I wasn't like I was trying to really prove this. I had enough heroism there with Johnny Buchamp. I didn't need it, but. So then I was up in Charlotte nosing around and talking to the mechanics who were actually at the track, and there was a big, almost like a fight after the race between the pit crews of Lee Petty and Buchamp because they were very close together.
Oh, really?
And see, in Johnny's group, they had counted the pit stops, and Johnny was really good with his car. He didn't wear his cars out. Well, they'd changed one tire during the whole race. And so they knew that Lee Petty had stopped, pitted several times more than they had. And a pit stop usually is about 90 seconds, and that's one full lap right there. If they're traveling around the track.
There you go. Wow. That's absolutely true. Yeah.
And so they knew that Petty couldn't possibly be on the same lap with them with those pit stops. And so all of this was coming out, and the disgruntlement, and then on top of the lap counting business, at one point, the Holman Moody, who at one point had owned the Thunderbirds, they hired an accounting firm to actually count the laps. It was more of a publicity stunt than anything, but just to show that something was wrong with the lap counting, embarrass NASCAR. But they hired this counting firm to go count the laps. But there was a lot of discussion, and in the pits, Jack Smith, who's most of these people are dead. I talked to his wife, and I talked to living people who were there in the pits. Jack Smith, who finished or raced fairly far up, and he was from Atlanta. He told the third place car that they might have finished higher than that. Because he said you guys probably finished ahead of Petty. You better go see. You might have won the race. Yeah. And so the Jack Smith, who had raced way up to the front, he knew that something was amiss.
Wow.
Yeah. It
fascinating stuff. So have you had any feedback now that you've written the book from people who maybe are mad at you because you're saying Lee Petty didn't really win?
Well, I've had a lot of feedback from people who say that they knew it was that way all along.
Oh, okay.
If you go to Amazon and look at my Ghosts of NASCAR, just look up the book. I've had 17 reviews, and I'm 5-star on Amazon, and the book was the second best motorsport book of 2013. It
fascinating stuff.
But the reality is, the people who kind of follow this close, they know that something wasn't right. But they all, even several of the very good drivers. One's a friend of mine. He was never willing to say what happened because you can't prove it beyond a shadow of doubt. Right. But there's so much evidence that it really puts the race in doubt.
That is you really made a good case. You should have been a lawyer. John Havick, thank you so much for being on the air with us today. We've got 1 minute left. Give us a website and other information so we can get the book.
Yeah. Well, you can find it on my website, www.ghostsofnascar, just all one word.com, or you can just like a Google search of Ghosts of NASCAR, and you'll get to the the Amazon website and other places where you can find it and find reviews of it, and it actually crosses over. I've had professors read it and say it's wonderful, great popular culture. And,
it really is fascinating. The Ghosts of NASCAR, John Havick, Havick. The website is ghostsofnascar.com, and you can get there and on Amazon. Thank you so much, John. Please be careful. Come down to Florida and get out of the Atlanta snowstorm.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me.
All right. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. World health experts sounding the alarm about the Zika virus, which some authorities believe could eventually affect more than 4 million people in the Western Hemisphere.
This is the virus